A very good afternoon to one and all present here. I, Dr. Sanjukta Bose Goswami, Dean, School of Technology, with great pleasure welcome our esteemed guest, Professor Indira Parikh, our Provost, Professor G.R. Sinha, Director Admin, Sri R.B. Panchal, and all our dear staff and faculty members of GSFC University as well as Fertilizer Nagar School, GSFC Township, to today's session, Teacher to Guru. To start the session, I would request our Provost, Professor G.R. Sinha, to welcome Professor Indira Parikh with a bouquet of flowers.
Once again. This is not my hall facility.
Today's session, Teacher to Guru, comes at a meaningful time for us. We are a young university with young minds, not just among our students, but among many of our faculties as well. Today's session is a timely opportunity for us to pause and reflect, not on what we do in the classroom, but why we do it. In an academic world, often driven by content and outcomes, it is rare to have a space that invites us to look within, to understand our own evolution as educators, mentors, and human beings. Professor Parikh is currently the president of Antardisha, Directions from Within, an initiative that reflects her lifelong commitment to self-reflectivity, renewal, and transformation. A trailblazer in holistic education, she is the founder president of Flem University, Pune, and has served over 3 decades at IIM Ahmedabad, including as its dean. She has designed and led numerous programs across India and the world, from INSEAD France to Texas A&M USA, integrating the triad of life space, workspace, and social space to deepen our understanding of identity, roles, and leadership. On behalf of all of us here, it is my honor to invite Madam to take us on this journey from teacher to guru. We eagerly await the wisdom you shall unfold. The stage is all yours.
President of the university, Vice Chancellor of the university, faculty and the heads of the technology department, and all the faculty, my colleagues. Namaste to all of you. You know, it's a pleasure to talk to faculty colleagues because I am very much against some of the things which we have been made to do for the past 7 decades. We have been asked to do things which are not in our blood, which are not in our DNA, and which is not our heritage. Many of the things which we are now doing and will change very soon is brought up by the colonial era, and they have made us captives of a certain ways of looking at life which goes against our real nature of our heritage. And therefore, I'm most happy to talk to faculty because finally they will influence the students. Now, we have been made into, and I include myself also because I've been a teacher for the last now 50 years. We have been made into captives of very narrow ways of thinking, destroying our creativity, destroying our innovativeness, and destroying our commitment and passion for teaching. See, the education was divided into three streams: arts, commerce, and science. Of course, people earlier went to medicine, then engineering became the buzzword. After engineering came the management, then came the IT, and now the AI. All these gradual transformations began from the three narrow streams, whereas our heritage, if you see, have courses which don't exist even today in the globe. It doesn't even exist in the globe. So teachers have to become gurus now because teachers' role has been shrunk into very narrow spaces, and that space doesn't belong to us. That space belongs to the Western theories, Western thoughts, and Western philosophy. And once we go into that space, we lose our own space and our own creativity, our own innovativeness, our own thinking. Because that Western space tells us that they are the ones who are going to define knowledge. They are the ones who are going to create knowledge. And they are the ones who are going to tell us what we should be doing and what we should be following. I will give you one example. I had written a paper on the Indian organization and especially the union problems. It is pure Indian data, Indian organization, Indian issues, nothing to do with American or Western thoughts. I sent it for publication to the Western Journal because it was required in the institute, or all of us require with that our captive mind that it should go to a foreign journal, and everybody sent it back. I was surprised and I was also saddened. I said, my paper is very good and my paper is based on original research, my own original research. So I went to two of my faculty, one faculty dean of management in Texas where I was a faculty, and I said, Don, tell me what is wrong with this paper. So Don took the paper and he didn't come back to me. 6 weeks later, I went to him and I said, Don, have you seen my paper? He said, yes. Why didn't you call me? He said, I was feeling very, what word did you use? I was feeling very ashamed to call you. I said, is my paper that bad? He said, no, the paper is not bad. It's our system which is bad. I said, what did I do wrong? He said, you have done nothing wrong, except you have not quoted a Western author, not even one. That is why they haven't published. He said, if you want to try it, add in the first paragraph a Western author's name. But I said, this is pure Indian data. He says, I know, but this is the bad system. They will not publish anything other than if you don't include a Western author. This is the captivity and this is the shamefulness of them. They cannot accept that anybody but them can provide a good paper or original paper. So I said, chalo, let me try. So in the first paragraph I said, as said by, it was a Swedish, I named a Swedish author who had done some work in India. My paper presents this, and that's all I wrote. I got accepted in the best of the management journal, which gave me my permanent job in IIM. I mean, that was the most unhappy situation for me. That one paper with a Western author's name in a Western journal gets me a job. Because it's an international journal, yes, she has published the paper in that. Now, so we have done this time and often. When I was the dean at IIM, I asked my faculty, can you teach 30 courses with your own work? He was not a single one who could teach 30 courses of his own domain subject with his own work or with his own research. I mean, that is the sad story of our education system, and it has pushed our faculty into doing this. And if that is the pressure, how can they become gurus? Gurus requires a very different mindset, a very different approach to education, and a very different approach to students. Now, I have identified 4 basic statements what makes a guru. Then I will have some PowerPoints which will go in detail. But these 4 I have in memory. I also talked to the students today. अब इधर आइए, मेरे को अकेला मत छोड़ दीजिए।
आपको सामने देखिए थोड़ा ऑप्शन ज्यादा होगा।
You see, the first thing a guru does is make that which is invisible visible for the students. Or even you see, so many of the students don't see things properly. And it's not that they don't know, it is all invisible. So the guru what he will do is identify what is visible and present it to him and say, this is your thinking, but you are not making it visible. You are wanting somebody else to make it visible. Second basic principle is articulate the unarticulated. How would you make the student who wants to say something but cannot give it an expression, you can give it an expression in such a way that he or she will say, yes, that's what I wanted to say. That is what I think, that is what I believe. So that is what a guru does. The third thing guru does is own the disowned, which is the student has lot of potential, has lot of capabilities, but is not able to act upon it, is not able to express it. Neither is he able to own it up for himself that he has those capabilities. Part of the problem is our students, even see this I recognize in IIM. I used to do an assessment test for them of where they stand with themselves. And to my horror of horror, I discovered that many of the best intelligent IIM students had very low self-esteem and very low self-worth. And this is the contribution of the colonial mindset or the colonial psyche which has been thrust into our heads, which doesn't belong to us. And it takes a lot of time to help them get out of this. You have the potential, you have the capabilities, you have the intelligence, you have the ideas, you have the language, you have the understanding, and why the hell can't you say you know it? Reality appraisal just is not done by a student, or reality appraisal by the teacher themselves. They will not really appreciate what they have, or realistically appraise that I'm good at this and I'm very good at this, because they've been pushed into one single domain of education and said, you are to teach this and this and this and this alone. You cannot do this, you cannot write a new course, you cannot design a new thing, you cannot design a new pedagogy, you cannot design a new methodology. In Flame, everything was open. As if a faculty came and said, ma'am, can I design this course? Yes, design this course. Ma'am, can I use this pedagogy? Yes, do that. And so many innovative things came out because there was space available for them to take that initiative and do it. So university requires to create spaces where faculty and students together can, space where they can dance and discover a whole new way of looking at reality, which was closed to us by the colonials. And I'm only talking about colonials, but the whole culture, and even in the first 70 years of independence, we had an education minister who was illiterate. And then he designed curriculum for the entire country, which was um, unacceptable, obsolete, unreal, and and they were just asked to repeat dates of births and death births of people rather than real history. We were taught wrong history and wrong people, wrong heroes. Our Indian heroes were made into villains, and the horrible oppressors were made into heroes. Now, see, if that space of education is crushed, teachers don't have the freedom to design, to think, to innovate, to. When I started teaching in IIM, I started with a lot of stories. Morning also I told 2 stories. I just started telling them stories. I started sharing my life which was relevant to the subject. And they said, ये क्या पढ़ाती है? First, I was the only woman there at that time in IIM. ये क्या पढ़ाती है? मैनेजमेंट आके अपनी कहानी बोलती है, मैनेजमेंट में आके कहानियां सुनाती है. I gave stories in called Texas. Today also Texas remembers. There was a professor who used to tell stories, and the students remember the subjects and the topics. So innovation is a part of our blood, but we are unable to do so because there is no space. Space needs to be created by the university, and space needs to be taken by the faculty. If the faculty says, how can I do this? I can't do this. Why should I do it? कोई नहीं करता है, मैं क्या करूँ? If you want to be pioneers in your own life, pioneers as teachers, then you have to take some risks and you have to take some initiatives and do it. And the fourth process of being a guru is acting the withheld. Because so many things we don't act and we just continue to do repeat, and we get into a we get into a slumber and a comfort zone where we do not take initiative to say something, to do something. For example, I wanted to offer this course in IIM called the Explorations in Roles and Identity, which was a course which had to be done off-site. And it was a 6-day course, and the course would be over. And we used to take the students out. We used to work from 9 a.m. till almost 2 a.m. in the night. And when the students came back, they were transformed. There was a big euphoria on the campus when these students came back. इसने hypnotize कर दिया, इसने mesmerize कर दिया, इसने ये कर दिया, इसने वो कर दिया. It went on for 10 years, but I insisted and persisted that I'm going to teach this course. Then they gave up. ये तो सुनती नहीं है. They just gave up and let me do it. And I did it until the day I left IIM. I taught that course. Because that course made students free of the captivity of the colonial psyche that they are not worthwhile. They discovered that they can be as good as any global, and I can tell you, if you stand one by one with any global, anywhere, you will come out better. But we don't accept that for ourselves. We still look at Gora Champri, we look at them and we make ourselves listen to them and say, oh, and there are many times I've heard these white people speaking. They have nothing new to say. They have one thing to say, but they repeat it in 10 different ways, and everybody says Baba. But if you stand one by one-on-one with any country in the world, any country, whether it's US, whether it is Canada, whether it is Australia, New Zealand, one-on-one you will come out much better. In teaching, in the perspectives, in the wisdom, in the content, in even the domain knowledge, you will come out better. But you don't accept that you are as good or even better than some of the whites in the world. If you accept that and give yourself the reality appraisal, that you can stand with anybody side by side, with anyone, you will be better off and you will do well. I used to be invited to a global conference in America, in Boston, University of Boston. First I was invited and I said, what am I supposed to do? Nothing. Then why are you inviting me? Spending money, all this, and then me spending 5 days. No, you come and just sit and listen to, and then make comments. You give comments and your interpretations. There were 5 of us like this. Me, there was one from Cameroon, one from Caribbean, one from another 2 African countries, 4 Africans and me. 3-day conference. Once the 3-day conference was over, we were made to sit in the circle and what is called a fishbowl, and then we were made to discuss what did we hear, what did we see in the conference, what did we like, what we didn't like, what could be done better. We were invited a second time. Second time, what we had said could be the theme was the theme. They don't even have the topics for the conferences. The third year they invited and it happened the same. In the second conference, what we had said needed to be discussed or was important was the theme of the conference. We stopped going. I said, we are not going to be free consultants to them to design what is the topic just for an airfare and going to America. America holds no great attraction for me to go just for that. So after that, I did not go. They were very upset. Indira, we are inviting you, why can't you come? I said, I don't want to come. The other 4 also refused. He says, all 5 of you have ganged up on us. How? None of you are coming. I said, you find out why. I don't want to come, that much I'm sure. So, you see, we have the capacity and the capability, but we don't seem to exercise it. Now, what did the gurus of yesteryears do? They held the entire institution. Now, rishis were the people who did research. Rishis were the people who did experiments. Munis were the people who did research. Then there were shikshaks who taught the subject. Then there were acharyas who did translate the research done to the students. So we had categories of people who did different things, but everybody knew they knew many subjects at the same time. And they just did not teach one subject. They taught 4 or 5 subjects. So they were multidisciplinary faculty. So they could teach history, they could teach geography, they could teach maths, they could teach this, they could teach that. So they knew a vast knowledge of wisdom which they could impart to students. And their basic focus was learning for life. And basically what were the values to live by in life. Now here, today, in the last, since the colonized time, the parents have transferred that responsibility of values to schools, schools have transferred it to universities, universities have transferred to corporations, and corporations don't know what to do. So the values to live by and the values to learn by it has become nobody's responsibility. And today's parents don't want to be parents, are not really parents, because see, parents' responsibility is, as I say, is not only just bringing up children or making sure they go to the best of the schools and all of that, but also to give values and also to help them learn many different aspects of life. Now, today parents are proud when the girls don't enter the kitchen. See, मेरी बेटी तो पानी भरती भी नहीं है, मेरी बेटी तो चाय बनाना भी नहीं आता है. I think that's not necessarily being a parent. Parents have to teach something to the children, but they don't teach in today's life. The whole focus has become पढ़ो, marks ले आओ, get a job, and earn your money and make your life. They don't know anything. They don't have any relationship with the extended family. They don't even know some of them. By name, or if they meet on the street, they'll never recognize. Because they have denied the children from all other aspects of life except learning. That is because of the education of art, science, and commerce. You do science, so you have to work hard, you have to get more marks, then get into medicine, get into engineering, and all of that pattern. But the fact is that unless you know how to live life, unless you know how to live with people, unless you know how to relate to people who are your family, who are your friends, and who are your neighborhood, the whole emotional aspect of the human being is lost. Now, this is what parents need to know the basic health dimension which they don't know today. Like today, I can tell you if the child has something this wrong, what medicine or what jadi booty to give to the child. We've been brought up this way. We know about health, we know about diet, we know about illnesses. 90%, I never went to a doctor. My parents looked after everything. For the first time I went to a doctor was when I had to go to the US and get myself some shots. And the day he took out the syringe, I fainted. Because I had never been to a doctor and got an injection. Parents must teach their child how to do preliminary health factors they should know. Today's children don't know anything. What they eat and what they don't eat is not taught to them. And I think that is what the gurus used to do. Used to teach them this jadi booty will heal you with this kind of a thing, because there were wars and these people learned how to do wars, fight wars. So in the war, all these medicine doctors were not available. So they had to learn the jadi booties and how to heal themselves. Every fauna and every food has a medical value. Every jadi booty has some sort of medical value. And one must know that. We grew up in all of that environment. But my next generation, that is my son or my sister's children, don't know any of these. They know some of these things, but not all of these things. My servants know everything. Benji, they will come and say, "Inko ye de do dawai," because the Ayurvedic dawais are made at our home, and we were taught what were these medicines and khana kya khao, khana ke baad pani kitne. I see people eating bananas and drinking water. It is anti-Ayurvedic of eating bananas and then drinking water. And I have a very bad habit of stopping people. Mat karo, khansi ho jayegi. Because they've been brought up that way. Nothing of this is taught to the children today. Khali padhai karo, padhai karo, padhai karo. Khana bhi mat banana sikho. I mean, this is something very... we are losing out on a lot of the multi-dimensions of living for ourselves and for our children. We could climb trees, we could swim, we could jump from and fall down. We broken limbs many times because we could, but nobody got angry with us. My parents, nobody got angry with us. My brother broke his leg, my brother broke his arm. ठीक है, सब ठीक हो जाएगा. वो पेड़ कटवा देंगे, but it was okay. Children, or if you do तूफान मस्ती, when बच्चे नहीं करेंगे तो और कौन तूफान करेगा? So there was a space available for us to grow up in the ways which we were capable of. And that is what gurus did. Identified what you are good at and focus on that, and then then design the learning based on that. It is possible even today. And see, if you look at artificial intelligence tool, it can do massive work and help the teachers in that way of identifying what student is good in what he is not good, what kind of help he needs, all that AI can identify, which frees the teacher to do new things. But unless you do new things and multiple things at the same time, your mind will become shrunk and it will only go one direction. It will not really expand and blossom and discover so many things which are possible. Now, what are the required nowadays? I don't need the thing, but I can talk about it by just looking at it. See, today's focus is about research. What kind of research do you do? Research and writing papers has become very important. And our universities are quite slow in that because we have lived in oral tradition for almost centuries. And because we had oral tradition, we have saved a lot of knowledge because of that. So it is not bad that we have oral tradition. But we also need to now, in today's world, have a lot of publications to let the world know what you people can do, what the teachers can do. And for this research, earlier the universities would get grants, but now you are required to go and get grants yourself. And these people don't know how to do it, and neither are they taught how to get grants for research. I was even when this whole transition came to IIM that you get your own grant for research, faculty were really lost as to how to go and ask for money. Because IIM faculty never asked for money, never asked for consulting, and just tell them the fees which the institute had set. So many new things faculty has to learn to have a bigger scope and a bigger space to do bigger things. So we have to get research grant. Secondly, unless you know how the administration works, how the structure works, and what are the systems, from a professor, you can't become a vice chancellor. You really have to go through the pangs of different stages of structure of the university to understand how the university functions. The director of Vellore University, a very brilliant surgeon, was chosen as director of Vellore Hospital. He came to IIM for 4 months to learn management, to learn to be the director of an institute rather than a surgeon of the hospital. And when he went back, he said it was such a big help to him that he had come to IIM. Because as soon as he went, there was a strike in the hospital. He said he could manage the strike because he had learned management. He could manage the other crises on the campus of the faculty because of the management. So, if you have an ambition and an aspiration to grow, and any university will, if their faculty goes as vice chancellor, is the reputation of the university which is increasing. If many of you become vice chancellors of universities, different universities, GSFC University will be known to produce people who are becoming vice chancellors. But if you want to become vice chancellor, you have to take small administrative roles. Otherwise, you can't become vice chancellor just from professor to vice chancellor. That transition is not possible. Now in IIM, I had so many admin chairmanships roles gradually. Placement, admission, I was a member of this committee, that committee, chairman of this committee, that committee. So when I started FLAME, it was very easy for me to create the concept of university and how to manage design systems, appraisal systems, recruit faculty, what were the processes of recruiting faculty. I designed all the processes which are still working there. So sometimes faculty gets, "Arey, humko administration nahi karna hai." I think do it because it helps you to grow. It helps you to understand how the whole system works. And the system works in such complex manners and so many nuances that unless you know that or have taken part in that, it doesn't work. You must get that exposure and that experience. So administration is one thing which also is required. Now these gurus who were heads of institutions managed thousands, hundreds and hundreds of people, students, staff in terms of teaching. They were also teachers and they were also administering the whole institution. They were institution by themselves because of the knowledge and wisdom, and then they manage the other people who were part of the institution and also they taught the students. So, expanding your responsibility and expanding your horizon is one way, and interdisciplinary education is important, but multidisciplinary is very important. Interdisciplinary, two people can teach together and you can learn. But if you see, when I joined IIM, I was asked to attend the management education program, which is for corporates. So all the subjects were taught, and I sat through almost 4 months of that, which gave me a connectivity of different functions and different dimensions of how a corporation runs, and therefore my corporate consultancy started to increase quite meaningfully, and I got a lot of consultants, and I did well in those consultings because I had sat through those. So learning constantly is very important, and if you have to learn about the changes, transformations in the external environment and transformations in the internal environment. Internal environment means students. Earlier, every 10 years there was a transformation in students. Now, every 2 years. Students are different, their expectations are different, their aspirations are different, their knowledge is different, they are different, because by that time they are one more generation free Indians. And they are part of an India which is growing positive and growing well. And when they go to America or they go wherever, people are proud of accepting Indian students because they are so good. I had gone to a placement meeting, one in America, in New York. I was a placement chairman, so I had gone. And so many people came and shook my hands. Okay, thank you for sending your students. They are so brilliant, they are so intelligent, they are so this, they are so that, they are so cooperative, they are so helpful. Now, unless you know your students or what is happening to them socially, intellectually, and how they are seen, you will not be able to provide them guidance, mentorship, direction as a guru does. Now, guru also does lot of personal counseling. Today, families have so many conflicts. If you will look, there are 30% divorces taking place. So, children are brought up by only one parent, most of them mothers. And they need so much help, the children, and they have nobody to go to. They have no place, they have no person, and nobody has time. I think it is very important that teachers understand the psyche of students of what is happening to them today. There is so much mental health issues, so many suicides taking place, so much depression in students, and they have no place to go. I think gurus were people that they went, the students could go to them, sit with them and talk their heart out. I think teachers will then say that they have so many responsibilities, so many things to do, yes. But to become a guru, you have to also do that. Take a look at the student who is, most of the time students cross your rooms or cross you without saying anything. But there is a reason for doing this. Never miss that. Students will come, many students will come and stand outside my room and go away. They would do it 3-4 times and I know something is wrong with it. So I would call them. Once if I see them, I would call them and say, what is the matter with you? What is bothering you? And they would start crying because They cannot handle the problems which are happening in the home. The families are splitting, the joint families are breaking up, grandparents are going away. So many dimensions, the turbulences of today's lives are bothering them. So you also have to be a mentor and give them lessons for life. How to live life and how to manage life. Now, one of the most critical things the gurus did was to help them manage their lives and manage their relationships, because it is part of what happens to the young generation. Um, I'm sure you know the what happens to your students, but you don't know what happens to in their lives. When I do my labs and when I hear their lives, when they tell their stories of their lives, I think the whole group is crying because they have never heard such things happen to them, and they cannot even fathom that such a thing can happen to a child. So it is very important that you are sensitive to the children, students. They are not your children, they are students. But even as a student, you have to be sensitive to the personal dilemmas and the personal conflicts which they are having. So faculty today stands at a threshold and a crossroad. Threshold because you are going to enter a new space of learning, new space of teaching. Once the NEP is implemented, you will have to have different pedagogy, different assessment, different grading. Everything which was done earlier would be obsolete and irrelevant. You will have to learn new things which are yet to come, and crossroad because you will have to make very, very tough choices with the students you are teaching, because they are a very different breed of people and a very different generation which gives no respect to anybody. They don't even respect themselves. And to earn their respect, you have to be really somebody unique and intelligent and sensitive for you to get their respect. And parents don't teach them, schools don't teach them. What has happened is now that the teachers want affirmation and approval from students, acceptance from students, whereas it was the other way around. Students were grappling to get attention of the teacher. Students were grappling to get attention of the teachers, to get a word of praise. Now they don't care if you praise them or you don't praise them. They get their praises from other sources. They have a grandfather Google who gives them whatever they want. So they don't care from anyone. You have to transcend all of these technology, all of these grandfather Googles to get their respect and to get their attention. So my statement is, I will leave time for questions if you have. Let me see if I missed out anything. I said you have to know the structure of the institute, especially when the government interfaces and what the government stops. And we have fought. I was the dean when there was a big fight with the government and about what we should be doing and what we should not be doing. Because what you can do, get a label of School of Excellence, then you are free to do many things. If you get that label, which requires research, which requires administration, which requires publication, how many books you have published, how much research has been done, then you get a status of excellence, which will then give you freedom to do many things. So I think precedent is here. So I'm saying university needs to provide space for faculty to be innovative and to do a lot of things. In liberal education, for example, in FLAME, the best course, the most popular course was on Bhagavad Gita. There were students who did, because it was first come first, they could not take many more students. So the opening would start at 7. Students would be waiting, sitting on their computer from 5 in the morning to press for that course. And or for this course, ELRI, Explorations in Life, Role and Identity, which was mandatory for everybody. Which course really helped them to discover their positive free energy and then to be able to relate to people in a meaningful manner. And my statement was that the students must learn how to relate to parents, how to be thankful to parents for the struggle they have gone through to bring them to the level where they have brought them, and not go by a Western model of saying parents are this, that, and the other. There's a nice psychology in America which blames everything on parents. I said, you blame everything what is wrong with the child to the parents, parents to their parents, to their parents. Where will you stop? Somewhere you have to tell the child, the psychologists in America, they discovered that their problems, they dumped it on the patient, and then they tried to solve their problems through the patient, which could never be solved. So there are problems which need to be addressed, dilemmas which need to be addressed, and as a guru, you can address those dilemmas. Now, in America, you can't tell a student do this or do that. When I entered Texas A&M University, the dean called me, or the department head called me and said, Indira, remember 2 things. Never have your door closed with a student. I said, why? They said, no, you will get labeled as harassing them and then you'll go to jail. You can't talk to a student with their room closed if they want to talk privately or things about their family, because there is no room where the student can talk like that. But students used to come to me and I said, let's sit outside and talk. So we would sit on the steps on the campus, and people are going around, but we were talking. They really shared their lives. And some of the students who came from international schools to the IIM for this course, lab course, told the Indian students, you people are so horrible, blaming your parents for everything. Look at us. At 14, we are thrown out of the house. And before we start our life, we are in debt of $200,000. And then they don't go to graduate school because it will cost them another $200,000. So they are only undergraduates, they get a job. And I said, then what do you do? Then they said, chill, we get married, we borrow some more money and we get married. I said, parents don't get you married. No, we marry with our own money. So our parents do so much for the children. Then the parents have the right and the authority to tell them yes and no. But parents don't take that responsibility to say no. Parents many times bribe the children to get their appreciation. And I think that is really wrong. Gurus don't do that. As in my first talk in Flame, the chairman said, your parents are sitting there. Your children are like my children. I went to the podium and said, they are not my children. They are my students and I am going to discipline them. So if you encourage them to complain, it is your problem, not my problem. I am going to be disciplined because I have to run an institution. I am not babysitting your child. I plainly said that in the... So we are not their parents, we are not their guardians, we are their gurus. And therefore the gurus have the right to discipline them, to give them right moral values and to provide them a sense of direction for life. It is not just a problem-solving role, it is a direction-giving role which is for life. It's a tough one to do, but it has to be done. Then for that you have to have passion, you have to have dedication, you have to have commitment, you have to have involvement. Students used to call me at 3 o'clock at night. Ma'am, I'm going to die. And my husband would say, Jao, tumhara bachcha ro raha hai. So at 3 o'clock I would talk to him and say, Kyun mar rahe ho bhaiya, batao. I said, Dekho, don't die, just wait till tomorrow morning. Come and see me or come to my home at 7 in the morning, I'll talk to you. But don't die just now. I mean, such funny examples I have. And see, people have died, they committed suicide in IIM, IITs, NID, CEPT. These are all fancy educational institutions, well regarded. But this is the happening in terms of the mental health of students. So part of the responsibility of mental health of students rests with the teachers. It used to rest with the gurus because gurus would take care of the child's life and direct the life into, help them grow up into good human beings and good citizens of the country. So that is part of the role which you need to play as gurus to make them good citizens and whatever good they need to become. But gurus must also emphasize that they have to respect the parents and they have to respect the teachers. If they respect the parents, they will respect the teachers. So, any questions I am happy to take. I will leave this here.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am, for the very thought-provoking sessions that we had now. I would request our faculty members, if you have any questions.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I would request the volunteer to please get the mic to. Who wanted to ask the question, please? Tanmay, so you?
Ma'am, how does your
How do you?
how does your guru influence you?
How did your guru influence you? How did your guru influence you?
How did my guru influence me? I had a most hateful guru. I learnt a lot from him. He was a brilliant man, but he was also very possessive. So when I wrote my first book myself, we had a major fight. He wanted the authorship in that. I said, you haven't even done a comma, you haven't done a full stop. How morally can I give you the authorship? And he wanted the primary authorship. But he said, but you learned everything from me. I said, I have learned, and therefore I have written. It was your role to teach me. I was your protege, so you taught me. So I've learned. And what I've learned, I've written, so it is my work. Then we had a lot of fights. So finally I said, okay, as part of Guru Dakshina, I give you the authorship. But I must, because I started sometimes his interpretations, his insights, I started having better than him. The role of the Guru is to make the student better than him. So I became better than him, so it then didn't actual life, it didn't really work out. So my guru, as I said, I have a book which I'm going to give it to the president. I've written a book called Indian Women and Inner Dialogue. This is purely my work and women's dilemma throughout life, from being a girl child to being a daughter-in-law, to being a wife, to then being a professional. That's the journey I've written, it is there. But he wanted the share in it, and I did not want to give it to him. But as Guru Dakshina, I gave it to him. So now I have learned to involve people in writing my books and give them the authorship. It is better to do that than they feel कि अरे मैंने इतना काम किया और मुझे कुछ नहीं मिला. So the second book, the last book I have written is on leadership spaces of leadership, where this girl Kamya, who works with me for last 13 years, helped me quite a bit. So I've given her the second authorship. I have another book called Magic and Mystery of Storytelling. I have given it to Bharati because she has helped me quite a bit. So gurus have to be, if not the gurus, Shishyas have to be generous and appreciate what they've learned from the gurus. I learned a lot from him. I cannot deny that. All my lab work, all my insights, my interpretations, the process of interpretation I learned from him. But then their personality also is what it is. Sometimes their personalities are unmanageable.
Madam, I have one question.
Yes, sir.
Can you please throw light on multidisciplinary approach of teaching? Because we encourage the faculty to go for multidisciplinary approach. It becomes very difficult. So can you throw some example or some light on this approach? How can we encourage our faculty for that approach?
See, I can give it to you in terms of consulting. When I do consulting, I have to know. I'll give you an example how I learned this. My first consulting was in Ahmedabad, and I had a marketing manager, I had a finance manager, I had a storekeeper, I had a HR person. There were 6 people, and the problem of the organization was that it was a textile company, so their dye cost was 6% more, which is 40 lakhs a year more than all other companies. So they said, what is happening in our company that we are spending 40 lakhs more for a dye which other companies had. That would become their profit. But they were still making profit, so they were not too worried and hit up about it. But they wanted to know. So we were sitting, 7 of us in the room. So I kept on asking, okay, this is the problem. So what do you think is happening with marketing? What is happening with finance? What is happening with... Everybody was doing the right thing. Every single person was doing the right thing. And they, in their own time, passed it on to the next in line and the next. And finally, it went to the general manager. Then I kept on pushing, pursuing. कुछ तो गलती हो रही है, कहीं पे तो हो रही है. Then the storekeeper stood up and said, "Ma'am, do you understand English?" I said, "Yes, I understand English." Chalo, I'll tell you what is going wrong. So in 45 degrees heat, we walked for about 10 minutes, went to his store. And he said, "Dekho, what do you see? Barrels and barrels of dye, all labeled properly, neatly kept. और एक में लिखा था, keep in a cool, dry place, temperature not exceeding 25, and it was 45. So he said these dyes get disintegrated. So when the time comes, I have to buy new ones. It costs 40 lakhs. That's the problem. She says, I have told everybody, we need to keep this place cool, but they're not keeping it cool. Okay, so I went to the general manager, consultants have freedom to go to he started laughing. General manager started laughing. I said, "Sir, you are laughing at 40 lakhs rupees a year loss for last 10 years. I said, what is the real reason? He said, this man is the lowest in the hierarchy, storekeeper. And so I thought everybody has AC, so he wants an AC. But he doesn't deserve an AC by protocol or by designation. So I have not granted him. I said, what a silly reason. Unless you know the company's different departments and how they work and how they are interrelated, you can't get the answer. So finally, of course, he got the air conditioner. He said, he's my relative, so if I give it to him, these are the stupidities of entrepreneurship. Another example I'll give you, they were looking for a loan of 5 crores and the bank wasn't giving it to them and they needed it desperately. So one day I was walking around the mill area and I saw a lot of junk. And I remember my father used to say, this is all money. Because this is what is called invisible waste. And this is money. So I told the MD, I said, why don't you just, these are pipes lying around, sort out the pipes and sell them as junk. Or as, not as junk, but as, there's a word for it. As a
Scrap.
scrap, yes, as a scrap. And there were so many pumps lying around. About 75 pumps they found. So they put up a team and said, "Judo pumps kitne hain?" They they found 75 pumps lying all around the factory campus. And the pipes were about few hundred tons they found. Chota tukda, they gathered, they sorted it out, and they called the person and they got 4 crores out of it. I said, ab aapko 1 crore ki loan chahiye. So unless you experience, go into the factory and then see what is the situation. See, I did a workshop for Mahindra's. I'm giving you the name of the company because it is published. I did workshop for union negotiating team, and I did management negotiating team. Both the teams I did work. I told I can't do both because it is crossing the line, because the workers said वो बाई को करेगी हमारा काम, वो हमको पढ़ाएगी. Earlier they were wanting me to be thrown out. कि ये बाई को क्या करेगी? But then they wanted me to work with them. The management in the union negotiating committee. So I did some work and I told Anand Mahindra, I will do a visioning exercises for the workers. Now visioning exercise is generally done for the corporate. I said, no, I will do a visioning exercise for the workers, this union negotiating team. तो हम लोग ने किया. आनंद महिंद्रा was very open. He said, करो, तो तुम्हारा काम है करो. So I did and I discovered, I had realized that the union and management vision, only 20% difference would be there. 80% would be the same. Because these are very nationalistic workers, very nation-oriented workers. So I said, these workers were very good, the negotiating committee members. So I had a visioning workshop for them. And for 4 years, they could not solve the negotiating problem. They solved it in 6 weeks. And everything with the management wanted. So, and this happened because I'll tell you the reason also. So, see, they had wanted to know how much they should negotiate for. I said, I can't tell you that because I'm working for management negotiating committee. So you come to IIM. And I will help you meet industrial IR professor. And you talk to him and then work it out. So they came. I invited them for lunch at home. And I gave them a proper meal, and my mother-in-law was also sitting there. We eating with them. They all went and touched her feet and did all kinds of things. फिर वो मेरे को बोलते हैं कि मैम पता है when I asked you first meeting when we had, कि आप आपकी सास को रखते हो, I didn't believe. I said, how would you keep your mother-in-law working like this? I did not believe you. But now when I'm seeing your mother-in-law in your home and behaving the way you're behaving, I can accept that. So therefore I gained their trust. So you have to observe many things to do multidisciplinary. It's not that difficult. Your mind has to be open to catch disparate events and connect them. See, disparate events are many. To connect them into a holistic picture, you have to learn.
Thank you.
Multidisciplinary only opens your mind. And women are very good at that. वो घर का काम भी करते हैं, उधर से रेडियो भी बंद करते हैं, उधर से सफाई भी करते हैं, उधर से ये भी देखते हैं, उधर से वो भी करते हैं. Women do all these things all the time. खाना भी पकाते हैं, बच्चे को भी झापड़ मार देते हैं, सुला देते हैं, गुस्सा कर देते हैं, but they are doing so many things at the same time. So it's not difficult. Women should use their this ability of multitasking and to translate it to multidisciplinary.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And you reminded us that being a teacher is not only about instructions, it is about the intentions. And somewhere between this content and connections, there is a translation from a teacher to a guru. Thank you so much for your wonderful session today. And now I would like to request our Honorable President, Shri P.K. Taneja, to felicitate Professor Indira Parikh with a shawl and a memento as a token of our utmost respect and heartfelt appreciation for her. And I would request our Provost Sir and Panchal Sir to please join President Sir on the stage.
तो मैं ही छोड़ू.
And ma'am, we have a sweet surprise for you. This is a Bengali sweet, our favorite chom chom.
Let the video will be made.
Bengali sweets are my favorite.
Oh, yes. Mine too.
So the majority is Bengali here in faculty. Quite a large number. Please raise your hands who have some Bengal connection.
अरे वाह. Yes. See, this is the book I was talking about. And this is about women and men both. It is from different ages how leadership transforms. From 21 to 27, 28 to 35, 36 to 43. What is their life, what is their work, and what is their social system. And from 44 to 51, 50 to 59, 60 plus, and then the last one I did was 70 plus. So what happens in your life? What dilemmas are presented in that period of life? 7 years of research. See, when that paper thing came, I said, मेरे को paper लिखना है, मेरे को किताब. I don't have to give a Quran name.
Your guru was the Gora.
Okay.
When I traveled to so many places, I said, धन्यवाद सबको. God bless you all.
Thank you.
बहुत सम्मानित महसूस कर रहे हैं. हमारा सौभाग्य है कि आप यहाँ पर आए. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. Thank you so much.
आप
Thank you.
बुलाएंगे तो आ जाएंगे.
Welcome.
बस मैम आते रहना. Thank you so much. And we will end the session with a group photograph. Group. Yes, sir.
इसमें तो खड़ी हुई.
So maybe we can all go off the stage and stand here, and Dev can take the photo from the stage, right? Yes.
बैकग्राउंड उतनी इम्पोर्टेंट है जितने लोग इम्पोर्टेंट. एक यहाँ ले लीजिए उधर.
ठीक. Okay, sir.
सीनियर मैनेजमेंट टीम इधर आ जाए. एसोसिएट उधर आ जाए.
तभी हो पाएगा. अरे वो गए ना क्रिश्चियन से बहुत गए.
वो तो अपनी माँ को लेके उसका 90th birthday का
Ready, everyone?